Welcome back. This is Daybreak. Thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We welcome your contributions and we'll sample them in the course of this broadcast. With me in studio is the Senator representing Makueni County, Dan Manzo. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the broadcast. And thank you for making time for the broadcast. On my immediate right is Dr. Ali Maalim Mohamud, the Deputy Governor, Mandera County. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you. Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Thank you.
Professor Grace Cheserek is the Deputy Governor, Elgeyo Marakwet County. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely having you.
Thank you.
And Francis Mwangangi is from the neighbor county of Machakos. Good morning. He is the Deputy Governor, Machakos County. Lovely having you.
Good morning and thank you for the invite.
Asante sana. Always lovely having you here on the broadcast. Let's begin before we focus on your roles as deputy governors and the move by the Senate. And the Senator Dan Manzo will tell us more about that and what they seek to end in what they term as supremacy battles between the governors and their deputies. Gentlemen and a lady, let's first begin with a look at the front pages of the publications and looking at the Standard newspaper. This is a matter of the rule of law, constitutionalism and democracy. Yesterday, the Acting Inspector General of Police has for the 7th time disobeyed the courts. The court found him guilty of contempt and will punish him after setting Friday as the sentencing date, whereas lawyers want him declared unfit to hold office. There are families clinging to hope that their abducted loved ones are still alive. Coming to you first, Senator Manzo.
Yes.
What do you make of this and largely what appears to be a receding culture of good governance and constitutionalism?
Yes, you know, when a contempt of court is committed, it's equivalent to a criminal offense. And what happens is that on the day of sentencing, if by that time he has not purged the contempt, he needs to go and purge the contempt. And you purge the contempt first by apologizing to the court, and secondly, by making sure these abducted people are disclosed in their whereabouts or they've been released. And also, you know, there are many deaths. By acknowledging and getting the officers who participated in these killings charged or identified, then the court could be satisfied and would forgive him. But if he doesn't purge the contempt, then you go to jail for 6 months or whatever sentence the judge will pass. And that means then if you have been sentenced and you have been convicted, then you cannot hold office. Mm-hmm. If you are convicted and sentenced, then you cannot hold office. And it is a serious matter. I hope his lawyers will move the courts now to purge the contempt, otherwise his career is over.
Yeah. And Professor Grace Cheserek, looking at it from a leadership perspective, and one of the major immediate decisions that President William Ruto made after coming to power, the following day, just 24 hours after he was sworn in, was to swear in judges who are rejected by President Kenyatta's government. And here is a matter of the rule of law, constitutionalism, and a court that has found the Acting Inspector General guilty of contempt. What's your view of this? And is it appearing to be a culture within our system when leaders, and this having a spillover effect into those who hold offices like Masengeli, disobeying institutions created by Katiba 2010 and by extension the courts, which are very critical in our governance structure?
I think we are heading the wrong direction in terms of leadership. And the biggest problem we have in this country now is having real leaders. We have people have been given offices to manage on behalf of the residents of this country, but they tend to become bosses and not servants. So for me, it shows that we no longer respect the citizens who gave us the opportunity to work in these offices. And for an IG to be brought to court is a good step, and we really want to appreciate the legislature, for the courts for doing this. And we hope that something good, this case should be done, and it will be a lesson to many. We came up, our constitution gave us a police service, not a police force. And most of us as parents and as mothers, when your child is missing, and the other day you heard the president says that he does not have a list of missing children, it means somebody is sleeping on the job. Somebody has been given the authority to manage the citizens and to know the whereabouts of our children, and they cannot produce a list. And yet we all know that children have missed, children have died during the demonstration. So it is wrong leadership. We lack leadership, and we look forward to a time. And now the young generation is calling us to be accountable. And for sure, things are not going to remain the same. We just need to come out as leaders and provide service, be servant leaders, and respect the electors that gave us these opportunities to serve them.
Okay. Dr. Ali, it's more or less a case of kicking the can down the road, is it? Because a similar instance ensued when the courts had directed the then Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, to return guns owned by Jimmy Wanjigi, and Kinoti said, "Over my dead body," prompting the court to direct the then Inspector General Hilary Mutyambai to put him in custody. So is it in any way shocking, given the conduct of Kenya's political class and state officials who appear to have long-standing grudge with institutions of government and independent arms of governments, for that matter?
Yes, Ayub, I do agree with Professor here, Chesarek. Unfortunately, the game remains the same. We only switch the players. And the level of arrogance and the big man syndrome in our institutions and leadership is just shocking. It just doesn't seem to change at all, despite changing the actual players, the people. The culture is what's really important. And so what we miss really here and lack is a proper culture of leadership, of accountability, and transparency. And we seem to have a very short memory of just our past. We have recently switched our police leadership across the board. And the reason why that was done is because of exactly what's happening right now. And so it appears like we are only continuing with whatever issues and problems that we've had. And unfortunately, unless there is a serious cultural change in the way we think and act, these things seem to remain the same.
Francis, how then do we get out of here, given that the expectation by the Constitution and the Kenyan public is that those who are in leadership positions and those who occupy critical government institutions and lead those institutions must adhere to the rules of the game, which is basically the rule of law and the sacrosanct principle of good governance, which apparently is lacking, including in the office of the Inspector General?
Thank you. Kenya remains a constitutional democracy where each one of us is supposed to obey the law. No one is above the law under the current constitution. Now, the way forward is for the Inspector General of Police acting to obey the court order. There are several of them he needs to obey. Number two, if he doesn't, the employer should crack the whip, because it is sending very bad signal to not only in Kenya, but beyond. If the top enforcer of the law cannot obey court orders, how are you going to convince anyone else to obey? So for that principle, I think whoever devised the acting Inspector General of Police to keep on obeying these orders, I think is misleading him. And at the end of everything, he will bear it personally. There is this world is too small. He might do it for now, but in long run, he will not succeed. So I think he needs to obey, and if he doesn't, the employer should crack the whip. Secondly, in the words of Lord Acton, power tends to corrupt. Absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. I think let's not get there. Let's, as leaders, set example, and we allow ourselves to be held to account. Yes.
Senator Manzo, another major issue, which is an accompaniment, is the failure by him, his office, and the authorities to produce 3 Kenyans who are missing. There are many, of course, other cases, but majorly this is on the habeas corpus that was filed in court for Bob Njagi and the 2 brothers who were abducted from Kitengela. is it in any way also surprising that the sacrosanct principle of life is also not respected here, given the anguish the families are going through and how the response from the government apparently is slow in its nature in terms of investigations and producing them before a court of law?
First of all, abductions are very unconstitutional. If you arrest someone or you suspect that somebody has done something wrong, including demonstrations of which they are constitutional, you should arrest that particular person and within 24 hours present that person in a court of law. Then they'll have an opportunity to defend themselves and their rights of an accused person. So they continue under Article 50 of the Constitution. So they continue to abuse these rights. The government is already abusing the Constitution, this is impunity of the highest nature. Therefore, the police, who know the whereabouts of these people who are abducted, should have presented them to court. And the fact that they continue not to present them, and the fact that they don't produce habeas corpus means produce the body, whether dead or alive. The fact that they don't do so, then it means we have gone into very bad times. Our constitution is not being followed, and it must be followed from the top. The top must show and must lead by example. And therefore, this is one case of which the Inspector General acting now must face the law. He either produces these people, dead or alive, habeas corpus, or he faces the law himself. He goes to jail, he loses his job, and this impunity must stop, with immediate effect. Otherwise, if it means everybody is unsafe in this country, and the government fails completely in its main duty of protecting the lives of people. And therefore, when you look at the pecking order, he has a cabinet secretary above him who is a professor of law and who understands the law very well. Although, the police are independent and their decisions couldn't be independent. So we want to see this particular case. I know the acting Inspector General is a well-meaning man, but I'm surprised who is directing him to disobey court orders. You cannot disobey the whole of judiciary. Once you disobey one judge, then it means you can disobey, any other court order, and it means if we allow this to go, then we no longer have a country. We no longer have a judiciary. We no longer have a government. We have a police state. I don't think this should be allowed.
And Professor Chesarek, isn't it surprising that the judge also pointed out yesterday that he summoned the head of the VVIP unit of the police, and who called the judge's bodyguard and the driver about the whereabouts of the judge, summoning him to appear before him also on Friday. Given that we are a system of government where the rule of law must be adhered to, which is the minimum demand actually from the Constitution, and what's happening at the moment, is this also a failure on the part of those who are holding these offices? It's an issue that needs an address, is it? And how do you think the CS Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, who himself is an accomplished lawyer for that matter, an international lawyer for that matter, can address this point, given that he leads that very crucial docket?
It's a disgrace to see what is happening in this country. And Kenya being one of the leading countries in Africa in terms of governance, in terms of even the way we do our policies, our legal system, we are mainly ahead of most of African countries. And we had come from a dark place, into the light. From Moi's regime to Kibaki, now to Uhuru. And it seems now, with our current president, President Ruto, things seems to be going back. And the other thing I want to raise is that we invest a lot of resources on our security system. We have the DCI, we have the police, we have, which other one? And the amount of resources that we put in those offices is that to secure the security of the Kenyan. The other thing is, it is absurd to see in this current generation the way police arrest people. And I said in my first remarks that it is saddening that our constitution envisaged a police service And now we are having a police force to an extent that we have even unmarked vehicles arresting Kenyans. We have hooded human beings, we don't know if they're security or criminals, arresting Kenyans, hijacking Kenyans. Which country are we in? Who is in charge? We have one of the most learned presidents in Africa. And somebody who knows, who's been in government for long, and Kenyans had a lot of hopes with our president. I don't know where we rank if we were to vote today, if that confidence is still there. It means somebody is not in charge. Either there is no hierarchy of command, or there's a loophole, there's a missing link from the president, from as the CIC, to the minister, and to these other heads of institutions. The fact that a whole inspector general of police can defy a court order.
Yes.
Our constitution says none of us is above the law. We are all under the law. And we always keep saying Kenya is a country run by the rule of law. So if the person who is enforcing the rule of law is himself breaking, showing that this is a nonsense law.
Yeah.
So what are we showing everybody else? Just like Senator has said here, it means we are not safe in this country. And yet other countries are looking upon us. The other day I heard Zimbabwe came here to benchmark. Other African countries are coming to benchmark on governance and devolution. So if we cannot even manage our own security over Kenyans, and personally, I want to see a situation whereby we arrest our Kenyans in a decent way. Say, Prof, you have done this, I'm arresting you. I put my hands, you arrest me, take me to the right place. As Senator said, between 24 hours, present me to a court of law. Remember sometimes back, as my colleague is saying, we sometimes forget history. Sometimes back the police also gave us instant fines on the road. When you have a road, traffic offense. Okay. And you are asked to pay, and yet it is supposed to be an instant fine. And you are taken to some corner. Why can't we say that if I have broken this rule, tell me this is the instant fee, 5,000, I don't have, so what do? You have to pay up to this time. Okay. And release me, I go to look for the 5,000, I pay. I show evidence that I have paid, and I move on with life. Okay. So we are generating, we are going into a dark place. Thank you. And we really need to relook onto our leadership, and all of us who are leaders, we need to relook at ourselves. Okay. Are we really moving? Are we moving this? Will we be remembered for good things, or will we be remembered for bad things?
And we'll look at your roles as deputy governors after the break here on the broadcast, just looking at a review of the major headlines of the publications. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdulkadir. And the move by the senators to set in motion plans to end what they term as supremacy standoff between governors and their deputies. And we'll talk about the experiences from Francis Mwangangi, Professor Grace Chesarek, and Dr. Ali, who represent their respective counties here, as to what needs to be fixed across the devolved units, given their importance in that structure of the devolved system of governance. All that after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.